Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Geelan for SYS-CON TV. We're here at 7th Cloud Expo, Silicon Valley. With us now is Ifran, CTO of Sybase, and now I suppose wearing an SAP hat. Ifran, congratulations on the acquisition.
Thank you. It's been a good experience actually. We've gone through at least the early stages of integration, and it's looking pretty good.
And SAP are here in force at Cloud Expo, so we're getting you every which way, which is a great thing. What's been the biggest change to be acquired and to be with a player that wants to be really high profile now in the cloud?
Well, I would probably answer that question two ways. I mean, firstly, Sybase clearly was playing in the cloud prior, but I mean, more from the infrastructural side. I mean, where Sybase really looks to differentiate is to provide enterprise-grade infrastructure. And what's good for me, at least this year, having been here last year as well, is the caliber of the people coming through the door. I can see that there's much more business-orientated kind of thinking, and clearly a lot more enterprise thinking that's going into this as well. So with SAP now in the mix, we have the largest application server company in the world, or applications company in the world, I should say rather. And with that comes a level of pedigree, which is to take applications from on-premise to on-demand, and then ultimately onto on-device as well. So it is really a marriage made in heaven as far as I'm concerned with Sybase.
And, let's drill down to that sort of end-to-end approach, because as you say, that is the unique position that Sybase can leverage, like instantly. Other companies might be talking about it, but we know you guys are there. So was that the main driver, do you think, for this acquisition, that you just add that wonderful piece where the future really lies, that mobile piece?
I would say, as far as Sybase and its value to SAP, it probably comes in multiple flavors, but I mean, you're probably right to point out that mobility was one of the key aspects. We share a common belief and a common view of the market. I mean, 2003, as was highlighted in this morning's keynote by Intel, or general session by Intel, around about 2003, they started driving towards this Centrino message. And it's around that time when Sybase actually coined the phrase of the unwired enterprise along with Intel. Now, the unwired enterprise is fundamentally going from data center to device center, with some levels of hosting in the between, and of course the level of services applications that come along with it as well. SAP have a vision, which is, as I've just mentioned, to go from on-premise and provide services on-premise, also to extend to on-demand, and then also ultimately on-device. Where Sybase really adds value is, if you think of Sybase and SAP as a consortium now, as two companies coming together, there is over 100,000 customers that Sybase and SAP now have. That translates into giving both companies exceeding amount of reach. SAP acquired Sybase because of the mobility network and connection that we have in terms of development of applications, expediting development of apps, deploying those applications into on-premise or on-demand type of scenarios, and then also having the carrier-grade network facility, which is a mobile messaging capability, to reach up to 4 billion subscribers, which is really what the reach potential is now of SAP.
A lot of people, Irfan, are always talking about the consolidation and will there only be 4 companies. We've had that on all the other cycles. Beginning to hear it now, even in the cloud space. Is it conceivable, do you think, that this entire, what you've just explained there, could really boil down to as few as 4 giants?
I think consolidation is inevitable. I would certainly highlight that point and underscore that point, as evidenced by Sybase. What was interesting to me, and in fact I'll answer your question in a slightly perhaps back to front way. I asked you the question in the following way. You commented in January that there were 150 vendors that you thought were noteworthy in the cloud community, and you redid your analysis, I guess, and you're now at 250. So in the space of 9-10 months, you've already added 100 members to that community. Now, that in itself is a telling tale. The fact is, I mean, how many more market entrants are we going to see coming about?
You want the honest answer to that? Another 250.
Right. And what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that there's an awful lot of buzz, which being optimistic is a great thing. Being somewhat not pessimistic, but being somewhat realistic, yeah, exactly. Being a pragmatist, I would suspect that there's going to be a lot of these becoming perhaps yesterday's news. And it's interesting, if you take the word cloud as a prefix and you add any verb to it, whether it's scale, whether it's performance, manageability, whatever, you can create a company name. And there's an awful lot of those.
So there are a few.
The VC funding behind these is looking for something to spend on right now, and that's a good thing. The reality is that consolidation probably will whittle itself down to having the Uber vendors, the IBMs, the Microsoft, the SAPs, driving a message which will have that much more resonance for the enterprise-grade community that actually expects that. And I think the evolution of what Intel is talking about earlier today as well, having the Open Data Center Alliance is another great example. That is getting vendor neutrality, but then driving value in the market by actually having some core principles that cloud computing can actually stack up behind.
I'm glad you mentioned Intel, because the way the day 2 has been shaped is this is really Enterprise Day. And they've set the tone. You've reminded me, actually, that the Unwired Enterprise was a co-venture, which I hadn't remembered. So really, this tale that we're telling today, and you're such a big part of it through the acquisition, it really is validating that entire strategy. So congratulations to you and everyone, really, for being right there. You've sort of come not from left to field, but you've suddenly emerged and everyone's going, oh yes, of course they were going to do something like that. Well done.
Sure, thank you very much. Well, it's an acknowledgement and it's a vindication in many ways. I mean, Sybase made a very conscious decision, not trying to be going up against 1,000-pound gorillas in the database space, although we have a very credible database offering of our own, to look to innovate within the market. And the Unwired Enterprise has really revealed itself as being not only distinctly valuable to Sybase, but of course to a common belief and vision of SAP. But I think the market in particular will look at the value. 4 billion subscribers on the smartphone kind of reachable network today through carriers that are out there today is an overwhelming number of connections that will making access to back-end systems. Cloud environments today will be benefiting, or should I say subscribers will be able to benefit from the cloud innovation that's likely to come about. It's almost as if the marriage has come together at such a point in time, a critical point in time, where the proliferation of the number of smartphone and tablets and all that coming together with the need for back-end infrastructure to be able to support the needs and the requirements.
So keep your eye on this story. We'll use Irfan, if we may, to keep our eyes on this story, because this really is the meta story. It is coming together. It is a perfect storm. The noise behind us isn't all hype, though we're agreeing there is obviously at the edges going to be some hype. But watch the elephants. That's what I'm hearing from you. Watch the elephants, because they made this bet 5, 8, 10 years ago. That's really what you're reminding us.
Yeah, and I would just further add to that, just to stratify in terms of where this market is kind of playing right now. You've got the Uber vendors who basically are looking to reinvent themselves in some degree. I mean, if you're an IBM, not in a disparaging way, but they were the custodians of the mainframe. In order for them to have relevance and continuity in terms of what they want to do, cloud is a big entree for them. In terms of a Microsoft, or perhaps some of the other vendors coming to the fore right now who want to make much more of a splash on the cloud side, it actually has a lot of business value for them in terms of perpetual licensing of software and how that's going to relate to future consumption. In terms of the new market entrants, they will actually add the sparkle, the brilliance in terms of innovation. And Sybase and SAP is working in collaboration with some of those. In-memory computing as one cornerstone in terms of how evolution will take place in data center environments. In-memory centric computing will be a game changer. And these are the kind of market entrants that will really add a lot of value into the cloud space.
So the innovation is continuous, and that's something you're looking at all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very serious about R&D. SAP is very serious about R&D. I should say SAP as a company, we are very serious about R&D. We believe that the innovation of both mobility and in-memory centric computing will be a game changer. It will allow the solitary user that sits behind a firewall or even on the move in terms of information workers that have today to have the same access to the same corporate assets, the same data, without any compromise.
As ever, Irfan Khan, thought leadership at its best. We must make sure we get some of that written down, if we may. I think we should transcribe this exchange. Thank you so much for joining us here in Santa Clara, Irfan, and thank you for following this guy's insights via the World Wide Web.